King Charles has now begun the formal process to remove the titles and honours of his brother Andrew. Was Prince Andrew? Now he's just going to be known as Andrew Mountbatten.
After years of mounting scandal and relentless pressure, a man no one expected to fall this far storms into the margins of royal life. Forced from his home in the dead of night, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has arrived at a property with a haunting history that speaks volumes about where he now stands. Whispers of humiliation, hidden histories, and long-buried connections to royal exile ignite fierce debate, while sources and observers brace for what comes next. Palace insiders hint at consequences no public statement could have prepared for. Is this temporary refuge or permanent banishment? What is the real story behind Wood Farm? Who has been sent there before? And why does this moment feel like the beginning of the end for Andrew?
This is full disgrace and pretty much unprecedented as far as we can see. We were told Prince Andrew couldn't stop being a prince because he was a son of the late...
The most striking detail in all of this is not just that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been forced to leave Royal Lodge, but where he has ended up. His new temporary home, Wood Farm Cottage, is one of the most quietly unsettling royal residences in existence. It is a place the family has long used to tuck people away when they become awkward, inconvenient, or simply easier not to talk about. Andrew's departure from Royal Lodge happened abruptly, and according to several reports, under cover of darkness. He did not host farewells. There were no public goodbyes, no slow transition. One evening he was still at the Grand Windsor Great Park property, and the next he was gone.
Besides, and he's going to, as you said, no longer live in Windsor, but in a sort of internal exile, in some sort of property on the Sandringham estate.
For someone who had lived at Royal Lodge for decades, raising his daughters and entertaining friends, the exit was unusually swift. Until very recently, Andrew had been living there with his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. Their arrangement was long described as cordial, even affectionate. Sarah once famously referred to them as the happiest divorced couple in the world. Despite their separation in the early 1990s, they continued sharing the same roof, a situation that raised eyebrows but was tolerated within the family for years. That tolerance eventually ran out.
Most extraordinary set of arrangements that have been announced. It gives you a sense of the scale of the damage that the royal family think that it's quite hard to stop calling him Prince Andrew, that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor had been in.
By late last year, pressure within the palace had clearly reached a tipping point. According to reports, Andrew had hoped to remain at Royal Lodge for longer. Instead, he was told that the arrangement could not continue. The decision is understood to have come from King Charles III, Andrew's elder brother, who has been steadily distancing the monarchy from Andrew since ascending the throne. Andrew has always denied wrongdoing, and the palace has repeatedly emphasized that he is no longer a working royal. Even so, his removal from Royal Lodge marked a significant escalation. It was not simply about public image. It was about control of royal property, optics, and the quiet reshaping of family boundaries.
That breaking news this evening, Buckingham Palace has announced that Prince Andrew is to leave Royal Lodge and lose his title. He will now be known as Andrew
Royal Lodge itself is worth mentioning here. It is not just a house, but a symbol. The 30-bedroom mansion sits within Windsor Great Park and was once the home of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Andrew took over the lease in the early 2000s after extensive renovations, reportedly, costing millions. For years, it represented his continued proximity to royal privilege. Even after stepping back from official duties, losing Royal Lodge was never going to be subtle. Andrew's next stop, Wood Farm Cottage, could not be more different. Located on a remote stretch of the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, it is a 5-bedroom property with views across farmland toward the sea. It is quiet, secluded, and deliberately out of the way.
Though 30 years ago, John Bryan found himself at the heart of a royal story like no other, when these infamous toe-sucking pictures of him with his then-girlfriend Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, were splashed all over the tabloids.
While pleasant enough by ordinary standards, within royal circles it has long been regarded as a place for those who no longer quite belong at the center. Wood Farm is not unfamiliar territory for Andrew, nor for Sarah Ferguson. In fact, it has been linked to some of the most uncomfortable chapters in their shared history. In August 1992, just months after Andrew and Sarah announced their separation, photographs emerged that caused a storm. Sarah was pictured on holiday in France with her American financial advisor, John Bryan. The images showed her reclining on a deck chair while he appeared to kiss and suck her toes.
A disgraced former prince is retreating to the quiet countryside.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is understood to have moved from his Windsor mansion to the Sandringham estate, following pressure over his ties with Jeffrey Epstein.
The reaction was immediate and fierce. Prince Philip, in particular, was said to be livid. According to reports at the time, he felt the photographs humiliated the family. As a result, Sarah was barred from attending the traditional Christmas celebrations at Sandringham later that year. Rather than being entirely excluded, however, a compromise was reached. Sarah spent Christmas at Wood Farm Cottage with her daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. The girls were allowed to attend festivities at Sandringham House with the rest of the family, while their mother remained at the cottage nearby. Even then, Wood Farm functioned as a kind of royal exile, close enough to keep an eye on, far enough to keep out of sight.
Windsor has reportedly moved out of his home in Windsor to the Sandringham estate in Norfolk.
Under the cover of darkness.
That's why, right?
But that role goes back much further than the 1990s. Wood Farm is deeply connected to one of the most quietly tragic stories in royal history, the life of Prince John, the youngest son of King George V and Queen Mary. Prince John was born in July 1905, the sixth and youngest child in a prominent royal family. From an early age, it was clear he was different. Family members described him as delicate and slow. By the age of 4, concerns had already been raised about his development. In 1909, Prince John suffered his first epileptic seizure. Over time, his condition worsened. Modern historians and medical experts believe he may also have had a severe form of autism, though this was not understood or diagnosed at the time.
Shocker, he is a disgrace. What more can the royal family do? They obviously want him to hide from public sight forever.
In his early years, John appeared occasionally in public with his family. He was photographed with his siblings and took part in some official events. However, he did not attend his parents' coronation in 1911, and by 1913 his public appearances had effectively ceased. No official portraits of him were commissioned after that point. Instead, Prince John was quietly removed from public view. He was sent to live at Wood Farm Cottage under the care of his nanny, Charlotte Bill, known within the family as Lala. There he lived a sheltered life away from London, court life, and the press. According to royal biographer Dennis Judd, Prince John became, in his words, a satellite with his own small household on the edge of the Sandringham estate. He enjoyed simple pleasures. He kept chickens, spent time outdoors, and received regular visits from his grandmother, Queen Alexandra, who reportedly had a small garden planted for him. For the family, Wood Farm served as a solution. Prince John could be cared for privately without the scrutiny that accompanied royal life. For the outside world, he largely disappeared. Christmas Day, 1918, would be Prince John's last. He spent the day with his family at Sandringham House, joining in the festivities before returning to Wood Farm that evening. Less than a month later, he died in his sleep after suffering a severe seizure. He was 13 years old.
Who will eventually move here, which is Marsh Farm, which is on the sort of Sandringham estate, but it's quite unspectacular. I mean, he's used to that 30-room royal...
Make sure you hit that subscribe button because I've got a special video coming tomorrow that you absolutely won't want to miss. At the time, newspapers reported his death with a tone of reverence and restraint. His epilepsy was mentioned publicly for the first time, though details were sparse. Through a modern lens, the decision to isolate Prince John at Wood Farm appears harsh. However, experts have since explained that attitudes toward epilepsy in the early 20th century were very different. According to the British Epilepsy Society, people with epilepsy were often removed from public life and treated as mentally ill. Families, including royal ones, believed they were acting in the best interests of both the individual and society. Despite its melancholy associations, Wood Farm later became a cherished retreat for Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. According to royal biographer Robert Jobson, the Queen was known to cook meals herself and even wash dishes during her stays. Staff did not wear traditional royal uniforms, and there was no rigid hierarchy compared to Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. Wood Farm was almost relaxed, which makes Andrew's current stay there feel particularly awkward. One friend reportedly said that Andrew found the move deeply humiliating. Royal Lodge had been his home for decades, a place filled with family memories. Leaving quietly at night allowed him to avoid attention and the emotional weight of a public departure.
that he and Sarah Ferguson had apparently been calling for 2 properties on the Windsor estate. They'd wanted to stay there. They had been interested in Frogmore Cottage, Prince Harry and Meghan's former home, and Adelaide Cottage, the current but soon-to-be former home.
Andrew's arrival at Sandringham has reportedly been met with mixed reactions. Royal household staff have been reassured that they are not required to serve him if they feel uncomfortable. According to one source, several staff members have already declined. There are also reports that many of Andrew's long-serving Windsor staff will not be relocating to Norfolk. Some have worked with him for years, but do not wish to continue under the new circumstances. As a result, Andrew may soon find himself with minimal support. What is clear is that Andrew's world has become smaller. Each move, from Royal Lodge to Wood Farm, and soon to Marsh Farm, places him further from the center of royal life and deeper into the margins.
It just gets worse every time this guy crawls out of bed, whatever bed he was in. It's like, they should do all of this at once. Just send him to the Tower of London.
The behavior that led Andrew to this point fits into a larger pattern of scandal, entitlement, and institutional damage that has defined his reputation for years. As the Epstein documents continue to emerge, more pressure built around the monarchy's need to contain the damage. From his catastrophic 2019 BBC Newsnight interview to his civil settlement with Virginia Giuffre in 2022 and his eventual title stripping in October 2025, each step brought him closer to the midnight removal that finally arrived. For many observers, the choice of Wood Farm as his temporary home carries a message that goes far beyond practical logistics. It is a property with a long history of housing, those the royal family finds difficult to accommodate at the center. Fast forward to February 2026, and the removal made clear just how completely Andrew's position had collapsed. The midnight departure brought the crisis to its inevitable conclusion, and the institutional response revealed a monarchy willing to exile one of its own rather than continue absorbing the reputational damage.
His lease on Royal Lodge has, to date, provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender.
Wood Farm has long been a place where uncomfortable chapters are quietly written. It housed a forgotten prince, sheltered an embarrassed duchess, and now serves as a temporary refuge for a man once at the heart of the monarchy. The haunting history of that cottage mirrors the haunting reality of Andrew's current situation: removed, reduced, and running out of places left to go. So here is the question I will leave you with. Do you think this really is just a temporary stop for Andrew? Or once he settles into Wood Farm, will history quietly repeat itself? The pattern is there. The symbolism is undeniable, and the walls of his world are closing in.